The round cracked past her ear so close it peeled a strand of her hair off her face. Sergeant Elena Torres didn't flinch. Flinching got you killed. Instead, she slammed herself flat behind the broken stone wall and hissed into her headset, "Contact. Sniper East Rooftop, Glass Dome, clock it." Static fuzzed, then Specialist Grant's voice came back, taut. "I saw the flash. Could be a decoy. You hit." "Negative," she said. "He missed." There was a pause, a beat of disbelief. Everyone knew that in this part of Kunduz, enemy snipers didn't miss. If they pulled the trigger, someone went home zipped up. "Elena," Grant murmured, "nobody misses on purpose." "Exactly," she muttered, and dared a glance over the crumbling masonry. The square was silent, emptied of civilians hours ago. Dust rolled in pale curtains through the hot late afternoon light. The old bazaar building loomed across the square, roof domed with glass panels cracked like spiderwebs. A faint shimmer caught her eye again, too clean, too precise to be random. Her pulse slowed, became clinical. The world narrowed to angles and timing. "Team 2 is still clearing the west side," came Lieutenant Hall's voice over comms. "Hold position, Sergeant Torres. Do not engage." "Copy," she said, though her jaw tightened. Her discharge papers were already sitting on a desk back at Bagram Airfield. 96 hours and she'd be back on U.S. soil, packing her duffel, trying to relearn how to sleep without mortars. 96 hours, and now a ghost on a rooftop wanted to make sure she never got that chance. She gritted her teeth. Not today. They had dropped into the district before dawn, riding the belly of a rattling UH-60 Black Hawk. Their mission had been clean: sweep and secure, hold the corridor for engineers to push a new supply route. It was supposed to be routine. Elena had even cracked jokes with Grant on the flight, telling him he'd owe her a beer in Fort Bragg when she was officially free. Now her mouth was dry. Every instinct screamed that the sniper wasn't just watching them, he was toying with them, letting her know she was marked. Grant's voice crackled again. "If we move to the stairwell, we can flank the dome." "That's what he wants," Elena said flatly. "You saw how he led that shot." Grant cursed softly. "So what, we sit and wait to get picked off?" "We make him impatient," she said. She pulled her canteen, unscrewed the cap silently, and tipped a thin stream onto a jagged fragment of mirror she'd salvaged from a nearby doorway. She eased the shard up with her knife, letting the light catch. A second crack, sharp, clean, and the shard exploded in her hand. The bullet gouged the wall inches from her knuckles. "Dome corner, southeast," she said coolly, yanking her fingers back. "He's real." "Hell," Grant breathed. "You almost lost your hand." "Almost doesn't count." She flexed her fingers. They still worked. That was something. Minutes dragged, each one heavier than the last. Heat shimmered off the broken stone, and her vest felt like it weighed 200 pounds. Grant muttered to himself in the alley, cycling the bolt on his rifle, restless. They weren't supposed to be here this long. Quick in, quick out, that was the deal. Staying still meant death. Every second they lingered was borrowed time. Her earpiece crackled. "Torres, sit rep," Hall said. "Sniper is holding East Rooftop. He's good, patient." Hall's tone sharpened. "Your call if you can neutralize." She hesitated. She wasn't supposed to make calls anymore. She was supposed to be counting down the hours until discharge, fading into the background, safe. But Hall trusted her. Maybe too much. She thumbed her safety off. "Grant on me," she said. "Thought you said not to flank." "We're not flanking," she said. "We're going straight across." There was silence. "That's suicide." "Only if we're slow." She slipped from cover. Dust swirled. Her boots hit the cracked pavement like drumbeats. The air felt thick as water. A flash flared on the rooftop. Time slowed, she shoved Grant sideways hard. The round missed him by inches, carving a puff of stone chips. "Move," she barked, and they sprinted. The bazaar's grand archway gaped like a shattered jaw. Inside, the air was cooler, shadows pooling like oil. Elena swept corners as they moved, senses buzzing. Every stairwell could be a kill box. Every doorway could hide a tripwire. Grant whispered, "We're boxed if he has a spotter." "Then don't get boxed," she whispered back. They ghosted through the marketplace ruins, weaving between toppled carts and ancient stone columns blackened from old fires. Her mind tracked angles, exits, height. She could feel the sniper up there like a heat on her neck. They reached the stairwell. The steps spiraled up tight, stone worn slick from centuries of feet. She stopped at the base. Listen. Nothing but wind sighing through holes in the dome. Grant's breath was ragged. "Torres, what if this guy's better than you?" Her lips curved, humor flickering even now. Then at least he'll have a story to tell. The climb was a blur of sweat and stone. Every step felt like a drumbeat counting down. Near the top, she crouched, signaled Grant to halt, and eased one eye around the lip of the stairwell. Empty rooftop. Cracked tiles. The glass dome above fractured into glittering shards. Heat haze rippled like water. No sniper. Her gut nodded. He moved, she mouthed. A soft scrape behind them. Metal on stone. She spun. Too late. The sniper stood at the far edge of the roof, silhouetted against the sinking sun, rifle already leveled. He'd circled around, waited for them to hunt him. Her rifle was slung useless. She dove as the shot cracked. The bullet tore the air where her skull had been. Glass shattered overhead in a cascade of tinkling rain. She hit the floor hard, rolled, lungs screaming. Grant yelled something, returned fire wildly. The sniper moved like smoke, sliding behind an old HVAC unit. Elena came up in a crouch, pain flaring down her side. She unslung her rifle with trembling hands. "Grant, flank left," she shouted. "Pin him." Grant bolted, boots hammering the tiles. The sniper popped out, fired. Grant shrieked, spun, hit the ground clutching his leg. Rage lit Elena's veins. She fired. The sniper vanished behind cover again and scathed. "Grant, status." "Legs hit," he gasped. "Not fatal, hurts like hell." "Stay down," she snapped and moved. She ghosted low, staying behind shattered ventilation ducts. Sweat stung her eyes. Every nerve screamed danger. The sniper was patient, too patient. He wasn't just trying to kill them. He was testing her. She stopped, calmed her breathing and thought. The dome's glass was mostly gone, leaving an open skeleton of steel ribs. A maintenance beam ran across above the sniper's cover. Risky. But it gave her an angle. She slung her rifle, drew her sidearm and holstered it across her chest for quick reach. Then she climbed, hands finding quiet grips, boots silent. The wind cut across the rooftop, tugging at her helmet straps. Below, the sniper shifted, scanning. Waiting. She crawled out onto the beam, heart hammering so hard she thought it might shake her loose. 10 feet below him. No cover. No second chances. She drew her sidearm. Slow. Smooth. The sniper's head tilted. He froze as if sensing her. Time stalled. She fired. The round clipped his shoulder, spinning him sideways. He dropped his rifle, swore in a language she didn't catch, and bolted for the far ledge. "Not this time," she hissed. She leapt down, hit hard, rolled, came up chasing. Her side screamed pain. He reached the edge, turned, and flung something. Grenade. Her stomach lurched. She dove as it clinked across the tile. White light swallowed everything. Sound became a fist. When her hearing crawled back, she was on her back, ears ringing, mouth full of dust. Smoke curled in lazy spirals. Grant was dragging himself toward her, blood streaking his pants. "Elena, you alive?" She coughed. "Define alive." The sniper was gone. Vanished. Only the faint smear of blood from his shoulder marked where he'd been. She pushed up, legs trembling. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She wanted to sit, to breathe, to cry. But Grant was bleeding and the rooftop was suddenly too quiet. "Comms?" she croaked, fumbling her headset. "Hull, enemy sniper engaged, wounded, escaped. Request medevac for Grant." Silence. Then Hull's voice tight. "Copy. Hold position." She slumped against the parapet, head pounding. The adrenaline left like a tide going out, leaving her hollow. Grant tried to grin. "So, still think you're making it home in one piece?" She managed a laugh, raw, broken. "Wouldn't be me if I didn't make things complicated." Night dropped fast in Afghanistan. By the time the medevac bird thumped in, the bazaar was drenched in shadow, moonlight silvering the shattered glass. They winched Grant up, his face pale but defiant. "Don't let him get you," he muttered as they strapped him in. "Promise me." "I promise," she said. When the bird lifted away, the rotors kicked up a storm of dust and broken papers that whirled around her like ghosts. Then it was gone, leaving her alone on the ruined roof, the city sprawling dark below. She checked her rifle, reloaded, and scanned the skyline. Every shadow could hide him. He was still out there, waiting. Hall's voice crackled faintly. "Torres, stand down. Return to base." She hesitated, thumb on her safety. "Return to base. Walk away. Pretend this didn't matter." But it did. The sniper hadn't just tried to kill her. He had let her live. The first shot, the one that started it all, had missed by design. He was playing a longer game and she didn't know why. Elena slung her rifle, eyes locked on the distant rooftops. "Negative," she said quietly. "I'm not done yet." Darkness came down like a guillotine over Kunduz. Sergeant Elena Torres lay prone on the shattered rooftop, cheek pressed against cold tile, watching the distance sprawl through the shimmering green glow of her night vision scope. The sniper was gone, but not gone. Not the way rookies meant when they said gone. A pro didn't disappear. A pro receded like a snake into brush, waiting. And Elena knew the type, because she used to be one. The radio hissed softly by her ear. Lieutenant Hall's voice was taut with worry. "Torres status. Stable," she murmured. "Grant's en route to Bagram airfield. Leg wounds clean." "That's not what I meant," Hall said. "You were nearly vaporized. Command says stand down. Come back in." Elena's lips twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Copy orders. But you know I'm not coming back in." Silence. Then dry. "Figured you'd say that. I'm sending Sergeant O'Neill and his fire team to link with you at first light. Don't die before then." "Not the plan," she said and cut comms. She adjusted her rifle. The cracked dome glass glittered faintly in the starlight like the scales of a dead dragon. Down below, the bazaar square was silent, empty, except for the rats that owned the city after sundown. Her heart rate was steady now. Cling. She slipped back into that old, dangerous calm. The world shrank to data points, vantage angles, lines of fire, thermal signatures. Years ago, before her discharge paperwork became real, before the laugh lines around her eyes, before the dull ache in her knees, she had been known across the battalion for two things: her sarcasm and her kill count. The first had kept her human. The second had made her a ghost. She wasn't supposed to be that person anymore. But tonight she had to be. Because the sniper hadn't missed. He'd chosen her. The first sign of him came just after midnight. A flicker. A faint heat bloom on the far roof of the collapsed courthouse, 8 blocks away. Her scope caught it and locked. The bloom flared, then vanished like a breath on glass. Elena's pulse leapt. That was him. He was probing. Not firing. Just watching. Daring her to come closer. Her grin was thin as a razor. "You want me? Come earn it." She slung her rifle, rose into a crouch, and ghosted across the rooftop. Her boots made no sound. She descended the stairwell like smoke, every step slow and measured. At the base she paused, ears wide open. The bazaar was dead quiet. Even the feral dogs had vanished. Good. Less noise to mask her. She moved. Kunduz at night was a corpse of a city. Hollow buildings loomed like ribs. Rusted cars sat gutted in alleys. The moon silvered the cracked roads like spilled mercury. She kept to the shadows, rifle cradled, scanning constantly. Her headset was silent. The army's eyes were elsewhere. This hunt was hers alone. As she crept through the skeleton of an old tailor's shop, her boot crunched something. She froze. Glanced down. A child's marble, green glass catching the moonlight. She felt her chest tighten unexpectedly. This district had been full of families once. She remembered patrols years ago, when children chased their armored vehicles waving scraps of cloth like flags. Those same kids were either grown or gone now, their homes eaten by fire and time. "Don't think about it," she muttered. The sniper wouldn't. That was why he was alive. She reached the courthouse ruins just before 0100 hours. The place was a black tooth against the stars. Its domed roof had collapsed long ago, leaving broken stone columns jutting like snapped bones. Elena slid inside. Dust lay thick on the marble floor, her own footprints loud against it. The air was cool and dry, echoing faintly. Her eyes swept up. There, on the second level, above the judge's dais, a faint metallic glint. A perch. She stalked up the crumbling stair, knees flexed, weight forward. Every step was deliberate. Her breath barely moved her chest. At the landing she stopped. The glint was gone. The perch empty. She knelt, fingertips brushing the floor. Warm. Fresh brass still faintly hot. The sniper had been here minutes ago. Watching. He was pulling her through the city like a lure on a hook. And she was biting. Back outside, she scaled the side of a half-demolished apartment block to get height. The climb left her arms trembling. At the top, she flattened and swept her scope across the city. There. Another flash of heat, this time 2 rooftops north. She grinned. "You're fast," she whispered, "but I'm faster." Hours bled away in a deadly waltz. He would appear, just a glint, a heat trace, a whisper of movement, and vanish before she closed. He was forcing her to stretch thin, to burn energy, to lose patience. It was elegant. It was exactly what she would have done. And she hated how much she respected it. At 0340, she crouched on a high balcony, sipping tepid water from her canteen, trying to calm her trembling muscles. Her whole body hummed from the chase. Her mind was starting to fuzz at the edges. The discharge clock ticked louder in her head now. 3.5 days left. 3.5 days until home. Until she never had to do this again. She lived that long. She thumbed her radio on. Voice low. Hall. You still awake? Static then, unfortunately. Talk to me. Grant make it? Stable at Bagram. He's pissed you're still out here. Tell him I'm worse, she said. There was a pause. Then Hall, quietly, you don't have to prove anything, Torres. Not anymore. She almost laughed. Tell that to the guy trying to ventilate me. Copy. Just, don't die. Paperwork's hell when you die. His voice faded to static. She shut it off again. Silence wrapped her like a shroud. At 0422 she finally caught him off guard. He had perched on the water tower of a gutted factory, silhouetted against the paling eastern sky. Her scope tracked him with surgical calm. This was it. She drew a slow breath. Centered the reticle over his spine. Then his head turned, and through her scope he winked. A round sparked off the concrete inches from her muzzle. She dove sideways instinctively. Stone chips stung her cheek. Her mind howled, spotter. There had been 2 of them all along. The factory exploded into chaos. Rounds chewed the balcony where she'd been. Elena belly crawled behind a rusted air duct as bullets shrieked over her back. The first sniper stayed put, calm as a statue. The spotter, no second shooter, was somewhere close and mobile, firing to hurt her. Okay, she hissed. So it's a game. She flicked a smoke grenade from her vest, yanked the pin with her teeth and lobbed it over the duct. White plumes billowed. She sprinted low, boots silent, weaving through rubble. The second shooter's fire tracked her, too slow to catch. She dove into the factory's upper windows, rolled behind a concrete beam. Dust rained. Bullets thudded against the beam, deafening. She waited for a lull, and lobbed a flashbang. It cracked like the sky splitting. Screams, one male, one choked, echoed. She surged out, rifle up. The second shooter was half blind, clutching his eyes. She didn't hesitate. 2 rounds to center mass. He crumpled silently. Her stomach lurched. He was young. Couldn't have been more than 19. Smooth cheeks, barely any stubble. Probably called her ma'am, if they'd met in another life. Don't think about it, she whispered again. No time. The first sniper was moving. She stormed through the upper gantries, hunting him. The rising sun painted the world in blood-orange light. Every shadow felt alive. She caught movement, a flicker at the far catwalk. She opened fire. Rounds sparked, punched holes through rusted steel. The sniper slipped away like vapor, silent as death. She pursued. Her legs were fire, lungs raw, but she didn't slow. Couldn't. A metal door slammed somewhere ahead. She vaulted a railing, hit the lower floor hard enough to jar her teeth, kept moving. Then the floor gave out. The concrete crumbled under her boots. She plunged through in a crash of dust and rebar, slammed onto her side on the level below. White-hot pain lanced up her ribs. Her rifle skittered away. Elena, she gasped to herself, get up. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. She froze, heart clawing her ribs. The sniper walked into view, rifle lowered. Not aiming. Watching. They stared at each other through the dust. He was lean, tall, wrapped in desert camo, face half hidden by a scarf. Only his eyes showed, cold, unreadable. And then he spoke, softly, in perfect English. Why are you still here? The words slammed into her like a fist. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. You should have left, he said. You had your life. You could have walked away. Her throat worked. You tried to kill me. If I tried, he said, you would be dead. Something in his tone made her believe him. Then why, she began. But he raised a finger. Next time, he said, and vanished into the smoke. By the time she staggered upright, he was gone again. Only silence and dust remained. Her ribs screamed with every breath. She retrieved her rifle, hands trembling uncontrollably now. Her headset crackled faintly. Torres, come in, Hall's voice said. Sun's up. O'Neill's fire team is inbound. 20 minutes. She stood there, shaking, staring at the empty doorway where he had been. Why are you still here? The words gnawed at her. Because she didn't know anymore. This wasn't her fight. She was supposed to be gone in 3 days. And yet she couldn't stop. Her radio hissed again. Torres, say something. She forced her voice steady. Copy. Standing by. She limped out of the factory, sunlight cutting through the smoke like blades. The city smelled of dust and metal. Somewhere out there he was watching her. And next time he wouldn't miss. The sun burned pale and sharp over Kunduz, washing the crumbled skyline in blinding gold. Sergeant Elena Torres sat on the hood of a rusted pickup truck outside the gutted factory, ribs wrapped tight with battlefield gauze and jaw clenched like a vice. The morning breeze smelled of concrete dust and iron. Her rifle lay across her knees, cleaned and reassembled, though her hands still shook faintly. Every shadow seemed to breathe. A distant whine rose, growing fast, a pair of UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters swooping low across the broken skyline. Their rotors thundered the air, kicking up sand devils. Elena shaded her eyes and stood. From the lead bird, 3 shapes dropped fast on ropes, boots hitting rubble with practiced precision. They moved as a single organism, fast, lethal, silent. Sergeant O'Neill strode up first, tall and wiry, face tan leather and eyes like ground glass. Torres, he said, no hello, just her name. Still breathing? Annoyingly, she replied. Behind him, Corporal Harris, beefy, baby-faced, grinned as he shouldered his saw. Heard you flushed a ghost. Twice. Elena's mouth quirked. He flushed me. I just didn't die. Specialist E, the team's TACCOM wizard, eyed her bandaged side. You cracked ribs? Hairline. I'll live. Good, he said. Because if you bleed out, O'Neill has to write the paperwork. Paperwork is worse than death, O'Neill muttered. Let's move. They ghosted through the city as the sun climbed, dust shimmering in heat waves. Elena kept point, leading them along shadowed alleys and shattered rooftops, tracing the snipers' escape paths from the night before. The streets were waking now, gaunt men pushing carts, thin women haggling quietly over wilted vegetables. Children with hollow eyes darted like sparrows, pausing to stare at the soldiers with unreadable expressions. Harris offered a stick of gum to a boy who couldn't be more than 6. The child took it silently and vanished. Harris frowned after him. Feels wrong, he muttered. Us stomping around here. Like we're ghosts too. Ghosts don't leave boot prints, Elena said. Stay sharp. By mid-morning they reached the collapsed courthouse, the sniper's first perch. He set up a compact sensor array, metal rods jutting like insect antennae. A soft chirp began pulsing in her headset. Thermal scrubbed, she reported. No human heat signatures within 100 meters. Then he's farther, O'Neill said. Or colder, Elena murmured. O'Neill eyed her. Meaning? Meaning he knows our toys. Might be masking his thermal profile. Ice packs. Deep shadow. Reflective blankets. Smart, Harris said. Professional, Elena corrected. They swept the ruin anyway, eyes sharp, boots whispering on rubble. Dust motes danced like fireflies in shafts of sun. Nothing. As they regrouped outside, Yee's headset crackled faintly with static. Elena's spine stiffened. Talk. Not comms, Yee said, adjusting dials. Signal bleed. Like, someone pinged us then cut off. Tapped our frequency? O'Neill frowned. How the hell? But Elena already knew. He's listening. They made for a derelict apartment block near the center of the district, a half-collapsed skeleton of gray concrete and gaping windows. O'Neill designated it as their forward observation post. Inside the air was cool and dry, thick with the smell of old plaster. Faded children's murals still clung to the walls. Smiling suns, crooked animals, stick-figure families with starburst hands. Elena caught herself staring at one. A little girl with braids. The paint cracked through her smile. Don't think about it. She pushed on. They set up in a second-floor corner flat with good sight lines down the main boulevard. Harris unrolled camo netting across the blown-out windows. He deployed motion sensors and a tiny drone the size of a sparrow, which hummed away into the sky. Elena assembled her rifle on a dust-caked coffee table, motions crisp despite her aching ribs. O'Neill watched her, arms folded. You don't have to carry this alone. She didn't look up. If I don't, someone dies. Could be you. Been me before, she said lightly. By noon, the city baked under white heat. The air wavered. The streets outside lay still, no movement but heat shimmers. The sniper would wait for the sun to dull senses, Elena knew. He would strike when minds sagged, when discipline thinned, when thirst and boredom rotted vigilance. So she drank water. Cleaned her rifle again. kept her pulse calm and her mind sharper than the heat wanted it. At 1317, Yi's drone feed twitched, a figure darting between rooftops 5 blocks south, just a blur. Contact, Yi said sharply. Visual, possible shooter. Let's move, O'Neill ordered. They went. They crossed the ghost city fast and silent, weaving through husks of buildings. Sweat burned Elena's eyes, but her focus was needle-sharp. Every echo, every shadow felt alive. They reached the block he had tagged. It was an old schoolhouse, roof mostly collapsed, playground rusting to orange skeletons outside. Inside, silence pressed like a weight. Dust muffled their boots. Sun speared through cracks like knives. Harris swept left-right. Elena and O'Neill moved center, rifles slicing air. A faint sound froze her mid-step. A drip. Water, slow and steady from somewhere above. Too steady. She lifted her gaze. There, atop a half-fallen locker bank, a metal canteen leaking deliberately. Her eyes widened. Trap. A shot cracked. The canteen exploded. Water sprayed like shrapnel. Harris screamed, clutching his shoulder as blood misted. Contact north window. He barked. Glass burst inward. The sniper's round buried in the far wall inches from Yi's head. Smoke. O'Neill roared. Elena was already moving. She lobbed a canister, white bloom swallowing the room, as he dragged Harris behind cover. Bullets tore through the haze, deafening. Then silence. When the smoke cleared, the window was empty. Goddamn ghost, O'Neill snarled. Elena's stomach clenched. Not ghost. Predator. They evac'd Harris back to the observation post. The round had creased his shoulder, bloody but clean. He patched him with brisk efficiency while muttering curses in Korean. Harris grinned weakly through clenched teeth. Guess I'm the bait now, he said. No, Elena said. You're staying put. His grin faded at her tone. She didn't care. She paced the room, jaw tight, mind racing. The sniper had fired only 2 rounds. One to wound, one to miss deliberately close to Yi. He'd wanted to scare them. Disorient. Shake their rhythm. It was working. O'Neill leaned on the wall, arms folded. We pull out. No, Elena said immediately. He's bleeding us. Picking tempo, picking ground. You want to keep letting him? Yes, she said, turning to face him. Because he's close. He's watching. And if we leave, he wins. O'Neill studied her. His gaze was hard but not cruel. You got a death wish, Torres? I've got 3 days left in this war, she said. I want them to count. Silence stretched between them, taut as wire. Then O'Neill nodded once. Okay, your hunt. But we do it my way. They spent the rest of the afternoon laying the trap. Seated motion sensors across a 2-block perimeter. O'Neill and Elena rigged decoy heat signature mannequins in windows, dressed in old uniforms and helmets. Harris, medicated and furious about being sidelined, watched the drone feed like a hawk. Elena chose the bait building, a narrow 3-story clinic with wide windows and a collapsed roof corner. High sight lines, multiple escape routes. Perfect sniper candy. By sunset it was ready. They withdrew to the observation post, watching the city sink into shadow. The light turned copper, then blood red, then black. And then they waited. The night pressed close, hot and thick. Crickets rasped faintly from the ruins. Wind sighed through shattered glass. Time crawled. Elena lay prone by the window, cheek to stock, watching the clinic through her scope. Yi's drone hummed lazy circles high above. Her mind began to drift, despite herself. Why are you still here? The sniper had asked. She thought of El Paso, of warm nights on her porch, a cold beer sweating in her hand, music drifting from open windows. Thought of her mother's laugh, her sister's endless jokes, her dog that howled every time she left for deployment. She could have been there now. Already half gone from this life. Instead she was here, ribs aching, heart pounding, hunting a ghost. Because she didn't know how to stop. Because if she stopped, she'd have to face what this war had made her. A soft beep cut the silence. Her heart slammed back into her chest. Motion, E whispered. Southwest quadrant. Fast. Human. Elena's scope swept, the clinic rooftop. A dark blur, fast as breath, sliding into position. It's him, she breathed. The sniper appeared like ink on paper, sudden, silent, whole. He glided along the roof's edge, smooth and unhurried, rifle low, body blending with shadow. Even from this distance, his movement had a predator's grace. Elena's finger tightened on her trigger. Wait, O'Neill murmured. Let him commit. The sniper paused by the collapsed corner, scanning the windows where their heat mannequins stood. He was cautious, precise, measuring. Elena's muscles screamed to fire. She held. Then he fired. His round punched through a mannequin's skull in a clean kill shot. Now, O'Neill snapped. Elena fired. Her round slammed into the roof inches from his foot. The sniper flowed sideways, almost casual, as 3 more rounds from O'Neill and he chewed the roof. He didn't panic. Didn't dive. Just moved, vanishing behind the roof's lip like smoke. Drone, track him. O'Neill barked. He cursed softly. He jammed it. Lost signal. Son of a... Harris began. A flash lit the night from the clinic's base. The whole roof disintegrated in a white-orange bloom. The shockwave punched their windows out. Heat slapped Elena's face as she hit the floor. Dust and glass rained. Jesus Christ, O'Neill coughed. When the smoke cleared, the clinic was gone. A roaring fire clawed at the sky where it had stood. Elena stared through the blaze. Cold dread pooled in her gut. He had known it was bait. He had mined it. And he'd just erased their trap. They withdrew, shaken, to the observation post's scorched shell. The fire's glow painted the night blood orange. Heat pulsed in slow breaths across the ruins. Harris wrapped his arm tighter, pale. He typed furiously on her tablet, jaw set. O'Neill slammed a fist into the wall once, sharp. And clean, then went still again. Elena just sat on the floor, back to the wall, staring at nothing. Why are you still here? Because she didn't know who she was without this. Because this was the only place she still felt real. Near dawn, the radio crackled. Lieutenant Hall's voice taut. Torres. Report. She hesitated. Then, engage target. He's alive. Any progress? He's inside our perimeter, she said. Knows our playbook. Knows us. Pause. Torres, we can pull you out. No. You've done enough. Elena looked at the fire still smoldering on the horizon. Not yet, she said and cut the line. The sky lightened to gray. Elena lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling as the first birds began to call from the ruins. Somewhere out there the sniper was watching. Smiling. Waiting for her to make her next move. And she would. Because she had 3 days left. And she refused to leave this war unfinished. The desert wind howled against the blackened husks of buildings as Sergeant Lena Hart slid into the crumbling remains of what used to be a bakery. The scent of charred bread still lingered faintly, oddly sweet amid the stench of cordite and dust. She dropped to one knee, weapon up, breathing in sharp, controlled pulls. Her heart was still hammering from the last engagement. 3 militants with AKs had ambushed their patrol from a collapsed minaret. Only 2 of her team had gotten out unscathed. Her thoughts kept flicking back to Corporal Tim Reyes's voice on the radio before it cut out. 1 minute he'd been cracking jokes about retirement beach houses, and the next his mic went silent under a sharp, wet pop of gunfire. Now his helmet camera showed only static. She couldn't let herself grieve. Not yet. Not until she found out if he was still breathing. Bravo 2, this is Viper 1, her radio crackled, pulling her back. It was Staff Sergeant Cole Mathers from the other fire team. His voice sounded frayed, stretched thin by hours of combat. We've got movement on the eastern rooftops. Looks like spotters. Might be our sniper. Lena pressed her back against the cool brick, scanning the street through her rifle scope. Heat shimmered on the cracked asphalt. Nothing moved, no birds, no dogs, no civilians. Just silence. The kind of silence that meant death was waiting. Copy Viper 1, Lena whispered. Advancing slow. Watch my left. She gave a silent signal to Specialist Jordan Kincaid. 2 fingers, sweep left. He nodded and slid into position, low and quiet. Lena crept forward, the barrel of her M4 sweeping across shattered windows and warped rebar like a divining rod. They were in the northern sector of Mosul, or what was left of it. The insurgents had turned the district into a maze of murder holes, sniper nests, and IED traps. It was supposed to be a routine last sweep before pulling out for redeployment. Instead, they were bleeding for every block. They reached the street corner where Rhea's last ping had come from. Lena knelt beside the scorched skeleton of a burned-out car, pressing a gloved hand against the hood to steady her scope. Her HUD flickered, catching a glint of something high up. Rooftop, 10 o'clock, she hissed. Kincaid froze, then crouched behind a doorframe. Could be optics. Could be a rifle, Lena said and squeezed off a single round. The glint disappeared. No return fire. That was worse somehow. A low moan floated from a collapsed building just ahead. Lena's gut clenched. She recognized the voice. Race, she whispered. Before Kincaid could answer, the world blew sideways. A mortar slammed into the street 20 feet away, throwing Lena and Kincaid in opposite directions. Her ears rang like struck bells, and her vision smeared into white and gold. When she blinked it away, she was on her back staring at the sky. Dust swirled down like slow snow. She rolled, gasping, trying to get her bearings. Her left leg screamed, hot pain knifing through her thigh. Shrapnel. Not deep but messy. Kincaid, she shouted. Still alive, he croaked from somewhere behind a slab of broken wall. Then, another sound. Boots on gravel. Not American boots. Too light. Too fast. Lena dragged herself into a crouch, ignoring the pain. A figure slipped across the far roofline, lean, wrapped in tan rags, rifle slung low. She barely caught the flash of the curved magazine before he ducked out of sight. The sniper. He was baiting them, she realized. Wounding Reyes, scattering them with mortars, picking them off one by one. And he was good. Calm. Patient. Like a ghost. She couldn't let him finish what he'd started. Lena keyed her mic. Viper 1, this is Bravo 2. Contact sniper on grid 7-6. Reyes possibly alive. I'm moving in. Cole's voice came back sharp and clipped. Negative Bravo 2. Hold position until we regroup. Can't. He's dragging Reyes further north. If he gets past the ring, we lose him. Silence. Then, you're running out of time, Hart. Story of my life, she muttered, then killed the comms and started moving. She and Kincaid pushed through the rubble, leapfrogging cover to cover. The street narrowed into a canyon of shattered concrete. The heat was unbearable, sweat soaking her body armor, making her rifle slick in her hands. Every step was a gamble. Every shadow might hide a trigger wire. They found Reyes' helmet halfway down the alley, cracked and bloodied. No body. Lena picked it up, thumb running over the faded sticker on the back. Beach, beers, no more tears. It was supposed to be a joke about retirement. Now it felt like a tombstone. Blood trail, Kincaid murmured. He pointed to dark drops vanishing around a corner. They followed it. The alley opened into a courtyard littered with shattered furniture and blackened cooking pots. A narrow stairway led up to a second-story balcony. The trail went that way. Lena signaled Kincaid to take the low side while she climbed. Each step groaned under her boots. Her thigh throbbed with every motion, but she pushed through it. At the top, she found a dark smear on the wall where someone had leaned hard while bleeding. Then, a whisper of cloth. A flicker in the corner of her eye. She spun, rifle snapping up. Just as a shot cracked past her head, so close it parted her hair with heat. She dove sideways, smashing through a rotten door as another round punched into the frame where her skull had been. Wood splinters showered her. She rolled behind an overturned table, panting, adrenaline flooding her veins. Kincaid, contact second floor, she yelled. I see him. Kincaid's voice crackled. His saw chattered from below, chewing the balcony's edge into dust. The sniper fired once, clean, precise, and Kincaid's fire cut off with a grunt. Lena's blood froze. Kincaid. No answer. Something inside her snapped. She ripped a flashbang from her vest, yanked the pin and lobbed it blind through the doorway. A white sun detonated, the room exploding with light and thunder. She surged up, rifle barking 3 times, controlled and fast. Plaster and brick spat from the wall. A shadow darted across the far window, fluid as smoke. She lunged after it, crashing through splintered wood into a sunlit hallway. Dust hung like fog. The figure was already halfway out a shattered window, boots scraping on stone as he vaulted to the roof. Lena didn't hesitate. She sprinted, legs screaming, and dove through the window after him. She landed hard on the rooftop. The sniper was 20 feet ahead, crouched behind an old water tank, his rifle trained down into the street below where Kincaid lay motionless. No you don't, Lena snarled. She fired. The sniper whipped sideways, the bullet sparking off metal inches from his head. He rolled, came up smooth and returned fire. Her cover shredded. They danced like predators, circling across the rooftop. He was fast, fluid, every move efficient. She was faster out of sheer desperation. Then he vanished. 1 second he was there, the next, gone. Silence again. Her heart pounded in her ears. She ducked low, scanning. Rooftop edge, clear. Chimney clear. Water tank. Something flickered behind it. She dropped flat just as his shot cracked past where her skull had been. She returned fire, rapid, suppressing. The sniper rolled out, reloading on the move, and sprinted for the next building. She chased, leaping the gap with a guttural yell. They crashed into each other midair. They hit hard on the far roof, rolling, fists and elbows slamming. His rifle went clattering away. So did hers. They clawed for knives. Lena slammed her helmet into his faceplate. Glass cracked. He drove a knee into her wounded thigh and white fire seared up her leg. She screamed and bit down on it, swinging her elbow into his jaw. Something gave with a crack. He staggered. She ripped her combat knife from her vest. He froze, one hand clutching his jaw. For a heartbeat they just stared at each other, breathing like animals. His eyes were pale, almost silver, emotionless. Then he threw something small and black between them. A flash. Smoke. When her vision cleared, he was gone. Only the echo of his boots remained, fading across the roofs. Lena knelt there, chest heaving, knife still shaking in her hand. The sniper had spared her when he could have killed her. On purpose. What? She limped back toward the balcony. Kincaid was gone. Her stomach sank. Drag marks led off into the street, fresh. The sniper hadn't retreated. He had taken Kincaid. By the time Cole's fire team arrived, Lena was already moving again, half mad with fury. You disobeyed orders, Cole snapped when he caught up to her at the Northern Ring checkpoint. You went rogue hard. What the hell were you thinking? That he's still alive, Lena said. Her voice was flat like cold steel. And I'm not leaving him behind. Cole's hard expression cracked for just a moment. He sighed. You're bleeding. You can barely walk. I'll crawl if I have to. They stared at each other. Then Cole muttered, God damn it, and signaled to his men. Mount up. We're going hunting. Night fell like a black curtain as their convoy crawled into the outskirts, headlights off, NVGs glowing green. The radio chatter was thin and tight. Everyone knew they were out of time. If the sniper got Kincaid past the river, he'd vanish forever. Lena sat in the back of the lead MRAP helmet resting on her knee. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every few minutes she caught herself whispering Rhea's and Kincaid's names like a prayer. This was supposed to be her last week in country. She was supposed to be packing for discharge, not chasing a ghost through ruined streets. But something deep in her chest told her this was the fulcrum. Everything she was, everything she'd survived, balanced on this hunt. They reached the edge of the industrial zone just after midnight. Rusted silos loomed like black teeth. Rats scuttled across oil-slick puddles. The air smelled of burned rubber and old blood. Cole raised a fist, halting the column. Foot from here. They slipped out, weapons up, boots silent on broken asphalt. Lena limped but stayed on point. The sniper had left a trail, a subtle line of crushed gravel and faint scuffs where something heavy had been dragged. A voice whispered in her mind, quiet but sharp. He's leading you. You know it. She ignored it. There wasn't another choice. They found the building at 0240, a half-collapsed factory with a rusted crane frozen above it like a skeletal arm. A single dim light glowed inside, swaying slightly. Cole signaled. 2 fire teams fanned out. Lena and Cole slipped in through a side breach. The air inside was thick and metallic. Chains hung from the ceiling. Their boots crunched on glass. And then Lena saw him. Kincaid, tied to a chair in the center of the room. Barely conscious. Blood streaked his face. His eyes fluttered when he saw her. Before she could move, a voice drifted from the shadows above. You came alone. The sniper stepped into the light, silent as mist, rifle lowered. His pale eyes glimmered. I knew you would. Lena froze. Her finger tightened on her trigger. Cole mirrored her, rifle trained. The sniper just tilted his head slightly, studying her like a scientist studying a specimen. You fight differently, he said quietly. His accent was faint, hard to place. Not like the others. You feel. Lena's heart thudded. Where's Reyes? A ghost of a smile. Dead. Hours ago. The words hit like a bullet. She forced herself not to flinch. Then let Kincaid go. No, he set his rifle down gently. You will. Before she could react, he kicked something across the floor. A detonator. Lena's blood iced. Tiny red lights blinked along the walls. C4. Dozens of charges. All wired. The sniper stepped back into the shadows. If you follow, he said, everyone dies. Choose. Then he was gone. Cole cursed, sprinting to Kincaid. Lena snatched the detonator, flipping it over. The trigger was pressure-sensitive, rigged to deadman mode. If the sniper released his thumb, the building would vanish. But he hadn't blown it yet. He'd given her a choice. She could chase him, or save her friend. Lena stared at the detonator. Her hands shook. She could almost see the sniper slipping away into the night, pale eyes watching from the dark. Then she shoved the detonator into her vest and ran to help Cole cut Kincaid free. They dragged him out seconds before the charges went off. The shockwave punched the world sideways, heat slamming into her back. She hit the dirt, coughing, ears ringing. When she looked up, the factory was gone. So was the sniper. As dawn bled into the horizon, they sat on the hood of the MRAP, battered and silent. Kincaid was alive but barely. Reyes was gone. And the sniper, untouched, uncatchable. Cole finally said, "He played us." Lena didn't answer. She stared at the rising sun, jaw tight. Somewhere out there, the sniper was still watching. Waiting. And she knew he wasn't done. The transport plane's engines roared like a steel hurricane as Sergeant Lena Hart stood on the tarmac of Baghdad Air Base, the dawn heat already shimmering off the cracked concrete. Around her, soldiers laughed, smoked, or stared blankly at nothing, all waiting to board the bird home. Lena should have been among them. She was supposed to be going back to Fort Bragg in 2 days, a duffel stuffed with gear and a head full of ghosts. Instead, she held an unsigned discharge packet in one hand, and a classified mission order in the other. She'd forged half of it. Stolen the rest. Her commander didn't know. Staff Sergeant Cole Mathers didn't know. No one did. Because if anyone tried to stop her, they might try too hard. And nothing was stopping her. Not until she killed him. The sniper. Lena's body still ached from the factory blast. Her leg was bandaged and stiff, her ribs purpled from the fight. She'd barely slept. But the image of those pale silver eyes burned behind her eyelids whenever she blinked. The way he'd spared her, only to slaughter Corporal Tim Reyes and vanish with Specialist Jordan Kincaid like it was all a chess game. And the detonator. The choice he'd given her, hunt him or save her team. He had known exactly which she would choose. That haunted her most of all. He had known her better than she wanted to admit. She lit a cigarette with shaking fingers, watching the plane's ramp rise. Each thud of its hydraulics sounded like a door slamming shut. She could have walked up that ramp, gone home, started over. Instead, she flicked the cigarette away and turned her back on the flight line. Crazy, she muttered to herself. Absolutely damn crazy. Then she smiled grimly. Perfect. 3 nights later, Lena was crouched on the roof of a half-destroyed police station in Mosul again, NVG's glowing green rifle resting on her knee. Below her sprawled the city's northern industrial ruins, rusted gantries, collapsed warehouses, miles of shadows. The sniper's last confirmed trace had come from this sector, intercepted from local militia chatter. He was still here, still hunting, and she was done waiting to be prey. Her plan was simple and suicidal: bait him. She'd borrowed a drone from the engineers and fitted it with an old helmet camera streaming on loop. The feed showed her silhouette, moving, pausing, kneeling, like she was on patrol. She flew it low through the maze of streets, the stuttering image broadcasting on encrypted net. Any half-decent marksman would see it and bite. She waited. And waited. 2 hours passed. Sweat soaked her back, gnats buzzing around her head. The city was dead silent except for distant, hollow gunfire. Then a flicker. A single glint from a rooftop 200 meters east. She snapped her scope to it. There, barely visible through a broken window, pale eyes behind a scope. Her heart seized. "He's here," she whispered. The shot came a heartbeat later. The drone exploded into sparks. Lena was already moving, bounding rooftop to rooftop, silent as she could despite the limp. She knew he'd relocate the second he fired. She had maybe 30 seconds before he vanished again. She reached the target building in 22. The stairwell stank of piss and cordite. She climbed fast, rifle ready. 3rd floor, clear. 4th, clear. A flash of motion and a tripwire glittered across the doorway. Lena froze mid-step. Her stomach dropped. Claymore. She exhaled through her teeth, crouched, and disarmed it with trembling fingers. The click of the safety snapping back into place was deafening in the quiet. Her heart jackhammered. He'd set this just for her. The rooftop was empty. Only an empty brass casing sat in the dust like a calling card. And scratched into the rooftop's tar with a knife point were 2 words in crude English. Too slow. Her blood went cold. She returned to her hideout, a gutted schoolhouse on the city's edge, long past midnight, running on fumes and rage. Maps littered the floor, covered in circles and notes. Every sighting of the sniper marked in red. He never struck the same block twice. Never left a pattern. She collapsed onto her cot, staring at the ceiling fan's dead blades. She had become exactly what he wanted her to be, obsessed. And it was working. In her half-dreaming haze, memories bled through. Reyes teaching her how to bluff at poker, Kincaid laughing until he cried when she fell in a mud pit, the weight of her discharge papers in her hands. The life she could have had. But she saw those silver eyes again and it all turned to fire. By the 5th day she'd stopped sleeping entirely. Her uniform hung loose on her. She muttered to herself while marking new red dots on the map. Cole showed up on the 6th day. He didn't knock. Just walked into the schoolhouse like he owned it, armor dusty, face lined with worry and anger. "What the hell are you doing, Hart?" he demanded. "Catching him. You're AWOL. Command thinks you're already stateside." "Good." Cole threw a folder onto the table. Photos spilled out, blurry satellite shots, infrared stills of armed men moving through the ruins. "That's him, right?" Cole said. "The ghost?" "Sniper," Lena said. "He took Reyes. Almost took Kincaid. I know what he did. And you're going to get yourself killed chasing him. Then stay out of my way." Cole stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed, shoulders sagging. "You're not going to stop, are you?" "No." "Then I'm coming with you." They spent the next 48 hours setting a trap. Cole called in favors, drones, comms intercepts, even a fake convoy. Lena picked the kill site, an old rail yard on the outskirts. Wide sight lines, controlled choke points. They seeded it with decoy patrols and thermal dummies, all rigged to pop flares when hit. Lena would act as bait, moving through the open yard while Cole covered from the gantries with a .300 sniper rifle. If the ghost took the shot, they'd triangulate and end him. The rail yard baked under white heat as Lena stepped out from cover, helmet cam streaming, heartbeat thudding in her ears. Every creak of rusted metal sounded like a rifle bolt. She walked slowly between the gutted train cars, rifle low, pretending to sweep sectors. Cole's voice murmured in her ear, steady as a metronome. "Stay calm. He'll take the shot. He can't resist." "Copy." A minute passed. Then another. Then a spark of light high in the far warehouse, nearly invisible. "Contact," Lena whispered. She turned as if casually scanning. The shot cracked. It hit a thermal dummy 2 feet from her, blowing its helmet apart in a shower of foam. "Mark." Cole barked. Lena dropped flat as Cole's rifle thundered. The round punched through the warehouse window. A shadow darted out the back, fast as lightning. "Missed," Cole snarled. "Not yet," Lena said, already sprinting. The chase was chaos. The sniper flowed through the ruins like water, never stopping, never looking back. Lena and Cole pursued, bounding from cover to cover, cutting him off at each alley only to have him slip away again. He lured them deeper into the dead zone, bombed out offices, hollow apartment blocks, the city's bones showing through its skin. Then Lena caught him. A flicker of rags on a stairwell, boots vanishing up a crumbling tower. She went after him alone. The tower swayed in the wind, glassless windows staring like blind eyes. Each stair groaned. Lena climbed anyway, rifle tight to her chest, breath burning in her throat. Halfway up, a shot cracked from above. Concrete sprayed her cheek. She ducked, rolling to the next landing as another shot tore past. "Cole, he's here," she hissed into her mic. Static. Dead air. She realized with a sick twist, he was jamming their comms. She was alone. She reached the roof gasping, soaked in sweat. The sniper stood at the far edge, rifle slung, silver eyes watching her with eerie calm. "You kept coming," he said quietly. His voice carried in the hot wind. "You could have gone home," he went on. "But you stayed. For what? Vengeance?" "For them," Lena said. He tilted his head. "They are gone. You're not." They stared at each other. The city stretched dead and endless beneath them. Then they moved. She fired first, controlled bursts. He was already rolling, rifle snapping up, returning fire with surgical precision. Bullets sang off the rooftop vents. She ducked, flanked, tossed a flashbang. It went off with a thunderclap, but he was gone, reappearing behind her like smoke. They collided, grappling, rifles tangling. He drove an elbow into her ribs. She slammed her helmet into his jaw. Blood sprayed. He staggered. She swung her rifle like a club, knocking his from his hands. He flowed backward, knife appearing from nowhere, blade flashing in the sun. They circled, panting, bleeding, blades trembling. Then Lena lunged. They went down hard, rolling across the gravel. Her knife carved a shallow line across his arm. He hissed and slammed his knee into her wounded thigh. Pain roared through her. She screamed and drove her head into his face again. His mask shattered, revealing pale, sharp features, eyes like frozen mercury. "You fight like me," he rasped. "I'm nothing like you." "You are," he said and headbutted her. Stars burst behind her eyes. She hit the roof on her back. He rose over her, knife high. Then a shot cracked from far below. His shoulder jerked sideways in a spray of red. Cool. The sniper staggered, eyes flashing. He glanced at the rooftop edge, then back at her. "Next time," he said softly. And he stepped backward off the roof. Lena lunged, fingers scraping the ledge. Too late. He was gone, vanished into the ruins below like he'd melted into the earth. Cole's boots pounded up the stairs seconds later. He skidded to a stop beside her, rifle up. "Where is he?" "Gone," she whispered, still staring over the edge. All that remained below was blood drops leading into the dark. Hours later, they sat in silence on the schoolhouse floor, both patched up by a grudging field medic. The city outside was eerily still. "You had him," Cole said finally. "Right there." "Not good enough," Lena said. "You're bleeding out an obsessed heart. This ends one of two ways. You catch him or he kills you." She looked at him, eyes hollow but burning. "Then I better get faster." Cole stared at her, then gave a sharp, humorless laugh. "You're out of your mind." "Yeah," she said softly. "But so is he." That night, as the city slept under shattered stars, Lena opened her laptop. A new message blinked on her encrypted feed. No sender, no origin trace. Just 4 words. "Still too slow, Lena." Her blood ran cold. He knew her name now. She closed the laptop, hands steady, eyes like flint. This wasn't over. It was just getting started. Dust clung to Kunar province like an old wound that never quite healed. The air was hot, shimmering, oppressive, an invisible weight pressing down on every man and woman in the convoy. Staff Sergeant Maya Reyes rode in the lead MRAP, one hand gripping the overhead strap, the other resting near the stock of her M4 carbine. Her eyes flicked from the road to the horizon, where jagged ridges clawed at the sky. Each turn of the winding mountain route felt like slipping deeper into the gullet of something ancient and hungry. Their mission was surgical: strike the compound where the enemy sniper, dubbed the Ghost of Assad Kale, was believed to be nesting. They would do it fast, precise, and without stirring the hornet's nest of insurgents scattered through the valleys. But precision meant threading a needle while blindfolded, and the needle was moving. Inside the vehicle, the tension was thick enough to bite. "Still think this is a good idea?" Corporal Eddie Lawton muttered, eyes scanning the road from the gunner's seat. His tone carried a brittle humor, but his hands were white-knuckled around the grips of the M2 Browning. "Feels like we're riding into an ambush wearing glow sticks." "We don't have the luxury of thinking it's a good idea," Maya said. "We just have to make it work." Sergeant First Class David Kim, seated across from her, nodded grimly. "Reyes is right. We've got 2 hours before sunset. In and out clean. Ghost goes down, enemy network cracks. Otherwise they regroup and the next convoy never makes it home." The weight of those words settled over them like wet wool. Nobody spoke after that. The convoy snaked deeper into the gorge, the road narrowing until the cliff face scraped against the mirrors. Rocks crunched under the tires. A hawk wheeled overhead, its shadow slicing across the road. Maya's headset crackled. "Reyes, this is Raven Overwatch. You've got movement ahead. Thermal blip about 2 clicks out, ridge line north. Stationary. Might be our guy." Her pulse spiked. "Copy, Raven. Mark it and keep eyes on." "Already done. Sending coordinates." A soft ping on her display lit up the suspected sniper's nest. It was perched high on the ridge like a malignant growth, overlooking the choke point ahead. If they walked into that kill zone, he could pick them off one by one. Maya made a decision fast. "Lawton, Kim, halt the convoy here. Everyone dismount and fan out. We're taking the high route on foot." Kim's eyes flickered with concern. "That ridge is sheer. And exposed." "Exactly. He won't expect us to come from underneath." Kim hesitated, then gave a curt nod. Orders rippled down the line. Hatches opened, boots hit gravel, and soldiers began climbing. They ascended in silence, only their labored breaths and the occasional clatter of loose rock breaking the stillness. The sun dipped lower, painting the cliffs in bloody gold. Maya led, every muscle coiled, her mind narrowing into the same razor's edge focus she had relied on in countless firefights. She felt the terrain as much as saw it, the fragile ledges, the sound of pebbles tumbling into the abyss, the prickling in her neck that warned her they were being watched. Halfway up, Lawton whispered from behind her, "Race, laser reflection. 2 o'clock." Her heart stopped. She froze, raising her scope slowly. A faint glimmer winked from the shadows of a crag. The sniper was there, glassing them. "Contact," she breathed. "Everyone freeze." They clung to the rock like insects. Time slowed. The glint vanished. Either he had seen them and was repositioning, or he was waiting to draw them in. Neither option was good. Kim's voice was low but steady in her earpiece. We could call in a drone strike. No time, Maya whispered. By the time it's cleared, he'll be gone. We finish this now. Kim didn't argue. That, more than anything, told her how much was riding on this. The last 20 meters were agony, vertical, brittle, and exposed. Maya's fingers cramped around the stone. Sweat stung her eyes. One wrong move and they'd fall into the kill zone below. When her hand finally found the lip of the ridge, her chest felt like it might tear itself apart from sheer relief. She signaled silently. Lawton and Kim fanned out to flank her. The plateau was small, littered with jagged rocks and tufts of dying grass. No movement. No sound. The sniper's nest, a pile of stones shaped into a crude firing position, stood 20 feet ahead. Maya crept forward, M4 raised. Every step was a scream of nerves. She reached the nest and lunged. Empty. Just a spent casing, still warm. Her blood turned to ice. Trap, she hissed. The world erupted. A thunderclap slammed into them from the opposite ridge. The crack of a high-caliber round split the air. Lawton went down with a cry, clutching his leg as blood fountained. Dust exploded where the bullet had hit stone inches from Maya's head. Snipers across the gorge. Kim yelled, dragging Lawton behind cover. Maya threw herself down. Her ears rang. The ghost had baited them, left the old nest as a decoy, then set up on the mirror ridge to ambush them once they were exposed. Raven Overwatch, she barked into her mic, we've got eyes on the ghost, South Ridge, Grid 9 Delta, request suppressing fire now. Negative Reyes, Raven replied, voice taut. He's in a civilian flag structure. We can't risk air assets unless you confirm no non-combatants. Damn it. She snapped her scope onto the South Ridge. Through the haze, she saw the faintest flicker of movement. A figure prone, wrapped in dusty tan, shifting with inhuman patience. Maya's mind raced. No air support. Lawton bleeding out. The ghost with the high ground. The only way out was through. She tapped Kim's shoulder. You keep pressure on his leg. I'll draw fire. Kim's eyes widened. You'll get killed. Maybe. Or maybe he thinks I'm stupid enough to pop my head up and you'll have the shot. Either way, it's our only shot. Kim stared at her for a heartbeat, then nodded once. Maya took a slow breath, counting the rhythm of her heartbeat, then broke from cover in a low sprint. Gravel slid under her boots. She zigzagged, weaving unpredictably as rounds cracked past her ears. Each bullet was a whip crack of death. Dust stung her throat. She dove behind a boulder, rolled, and fired a controlled burst back toward the glint of the sniper's scope. Nothing. Just silence. Then another shot. Sparks showered off the rock inches from her skull. Kim's voice, I can't get a bead. He's ghosting, keeps shifting position. Of course he was. The ghost was a phantom, never staying still long enough to die. Then it hit her, the nest. The old nest they'd climbed to. It was perfectly aligned with the enemy's ridge. If they baited him to aim for it, Kim, I've got an idea. Get Lawton stable. Then give me your laser pointer. What are you? Just do it. Seconds later she crawled back to the decoy nest. The sun was at her back now, bleeding out on the horizon. She raised the pointer and flicked it toward the enemy ridge, painting a bright dot on the ghost's last known position. She then propped her helmet on her rifle and slowly raised it above the nest like a periscope. The ghost took the bait. A flash. The helmet exploded. Simultaneously, Kim's suppressed shot cracked from a hidden angle. A scream echoed across the gorge. The ghost dropped from his perch, tumbling down the rocks like a broken marionette. For a long moment, nobody moved. Only the wind whispered. Then Kim's voice, target down. Maya let out a shaky breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Confirm kill? Working on it. They descended cautiously, dragging the injured Lawton with them. The climb down was worse than the ascent, each slip threatening to hurl them into the void. By the time they reached the gorge floor, night had crept over the mountains and the world was all black and silver. Kim knelt by the sniper's body. The ghost lay twisted, eyes wide, a thin smile frozen on his lips. His rifle, a long custom-tuned Dragunov SVD, rested nearby, the scope shattered by Kim's bullet. It's him, Kim said quietly. We got him. Maya stared down at the corpse. She felt nothing. No triumph, no relief. Just a hollow ache. She had built this man up in her mind as a monster, a shadow haunting their every step. And here he was just a man. Flesh and bone, broken like anyone else. She turned away. Let's get Lawton to the medic. We're done here. They limped back to the convoy under a sky spattered with cold stars. Lawton drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling nonsense, while Kim muttered steady encouragements. Maya walked ahead, alone with her thoughts. They had killed the ghost. Mission complete. But the unease gnawed at her. Something was wrong. When they reached base hours later, the camp was oddly silent. No cheers, no relief. The commander, Captain Marissa Stone, met them at the gate, her face carved from stone. Inside. Now, she said. They followed her to the ops tent. A massive digital map glowed on the wall. Dozens of red blips pulsed across the valleys. This is what happened while you were gone, Stone said, voice like ice. While you were hunting one sniper, the insurgents launched simultaneous strikes across 4 outposts. Casualties are heavy. Communications were jammed, we couldn't warn you. Maya felt the world tilt. They used the ghost as bait. Stone nodded grimly. And we walked right into it. Maya's stomach turned to lead. They had killed the ghost, yes, but in doing so they had pulled their eyes from the board while the enemy made their real move. They knew we couldn't resist going after him, she whispered. Kim swore under his breath. We played their game. No, Maya said slowly. They played ours. And they just beat us at it. Hours later, after the debrief, Maya sat alone outside the barracks. The night was cold and endless. Somewhere far away, artillery thumped like a distant heartbeat. She stared at her hands, still shaking. The ghost was dead. But the war had only gotten worse. And for the first time since the day she enlisted, she wondered if she still believed they could win. Cuner Province was burning again. Staff Sergeant Maya Reyes stood on the rooftop of the battered outpost, wind tugging at her dust-crusted uniform, watching black smoke rise from the southern valley like a funeral pyre. The horizon flickered orange as mortar shells arced into the hills, blossoming into fire. The air carried the acrid stench of cordite and something far worse, burning metal, burning flesh. It had been 72 hours since they'd killed the ghost of Assad Kale. In that time, the enemy had struck with a ferocity no one had anticipated, coordinated, relentless, precise. Outposts fell like dominoes. Patrols vanished without a trace. It was as if removing the ghost had triggered something much larger, as though he had been only one part of a far more sinister machine. Below, the courtyard seethed with exhausted soldiers scrambling to fortify the perimeter. Sergeant First Class David Kim emerged from the command tent, jaw tight, eyes shadowed from sleeplessness. He climbed up to the roof, boots clanking on the metal rungs. You look like hell, he said. Thanks, Maya replied without looking at him. He handed her a battered metal cup of coffee. It tasted like ash. She drank anyway. Kim leaned on the sandbag wall, scanning the valley. Intel says the attacks are being coordinated by someone new. Call sign, Sacker. Means Falcon. Former signals officer, defected 3 years ago. Smart, disciplined, thinks like us. So we cut off the ghost, Maya murmured, and the Falcon swoops in. Exactly. Kim's mouth was a hard line. Command wants us to take him out. Tonight. Maya turned to him slowly. You can't be serious. Dead serious. We've got one shot. Sigint tracked him to a cave complex near Marawara. If he consolidates control, he'll link all the splinter cells. We'll be overrun. And they want us to go? Kim met her gaze. They trust us, or they've run out of options. Either way, it's us. 2,100 hours, briefing room. The outpost's briefing room was a dim concrete box lit by a single buzzing fluorescent. Maps and satellite images littered the table. A flickering projector displayed the cave complex, a spiderweb of tunnels buried deep in the mountains accessible by one main entrance and several vent shafts. Captain Marissa Stone stood at the head of the table, eyes blazing despite the fatigue etched into her face. You will insert at 2,300 via hello drop 2 clicks east. Move silent, breach, confirm kill on Sacker and exfil before sunrise. If he escapes, this theater collapses. Understood. Understood, Maya said. Stone's gaze softened just for a moment. Reyes, you don't have to do this. You were days from rotation out. You've done more than enough. Maya thought of the ghost's corpse sprawled on the rocks. She thought of the soldiers who never came back from the ambushes, of Lawton's haunted eyes as medics wheeled him away, of the kids in the villages who would grow up in the shadow of this war if it never ended. She shook her head. If not me, then who? Stone nodded. Then bring him down. 2,330 hours, insertion. The UH-60 Black Hawk skimmed low over the moonlit ridges, rotor wash whipping dust devils across the cliffs. Maya sat on the edge with her legs dangling into the void, goggles glowing green in the dark. Beside her, Kim checked the bolt on his M4A1 carbine for the 5th time. "Still time to back out," he said through the comms. "Still time for you to stop mothering me," she replied. He smirked faintly. The helicopter banked hard and the cave complex came into view, a black scar gouged into the side of the mountain. Tiny pinpricks of light glimmered around the entrance. "Guards. Armed. Alert." 30 seconds, the crew chief barked. Maya tightened her harness, heart hammering. This was it, the edge of the world. Beyond this, only victory or oblivion. "Go," the chief yelled. They leapt into darkness. Parachutes snapped open, jerking them skyward. The world went silent except for the rush of wind. Maya angled her chute, steering for the shadowed ridge above the caves. Her boots slammed into gravel. She collapsed, rolled, came up in a crouch with rifle ready. Kim landed beside her. They cut chutes, melted into the rocks and began to crawl. 0030 hours, the outer perimeter. They approached the cave from above, slithering down the slope on their bellies. Below, half a dozen guards lounged by a fire, rifles slung, their breath fogging the cold night air. A generator chugged softly, powering a string of dim lights that marked the entrance. Kim pointed to the vent shaft 50 meters uphill from the main entrance, a black slit barely wide enough to crawl through. Maya nodded. It would bypass the guards and drop them deeper into the complex. They crept closer. Every movement felt deafening. Gravel shifted. A guard turned his head sharply. Maya froze, breath locked. The guard's eyes swept past her, then back to the fire. He laughed at something and spat into the flames. They reached the shaft undetected. Maya wriggled in head first. The stone was ice against her belly. The shaft angled down sharply, scraping her shoulders, stealing her breath. Claustrophobia clawed at her throat. She forced herself to keep going, inch by inch, the darkness swallowing her. Finally, it opened into a cavern. She dropped the last meter silently, landing in a crouch. The air was damp, stinking of oil and mold. Kim slid down behind her. They were inside. 0100 hours, the maze. The tunnels twisted like veins through the mountain, branching and rejoining unpredictably. They moved slow, methodical, marking intersections with chalk. Their NVGs cast the world in ghostly green. Occasionally they passed signs of life, discarded ration packs, a half-smoked cigarette, a sleeping mat. But no people. The emptiness was worse than gunfire. It felt wrong, like the cave itself was holding its breath. Then voices. Low guttural ahead. Maya signaled stop. They eased up to a corner. 2 insurgents stood guard outside a metal door, rifles slung, talking softly. Beyond the door came the faint hum of electronics. "Sacker." Maya raised 3 fingers. Kim nodded. On her count, they struck, silent and sudden. Knives flashed. Bodies slumped. No sound. They pressed to either side of the door. Maya gently tested the handle. Lock. Kim produced a small charge from his pack, silent breech, shaped to punch the lock without noise. He said it, nodded. Maya mouthed 3, 2, 1, pop. The lock snapped. The door creaked inward. They slipped inside. 0115 hours, the nerve center. It was a command center. Banks of radios and laptops blinked in the darkness. Maps papered the walls, marked with colored pins. Cables snaked across the floor. And at the center, standing over a glowing screen, was Sacker. He was older than Maya expected. Late 40s. Calm, clean-shaven, wearing a faded digital camo jacket with no insignia. His eyes lifted as they entered, cool, assessing. No surprise. "You're late," he said in flawless English. Maya froze. Sacker smiled faintly. "I knew the ghost's death would draw you. That was the point. You are predictable." "Hands where I can see them," Maya ordered, voice like steel. Sacker obeyed, slowly, gracefully. "Do you think killing me will end this? You remove one head, another grows. This war is Hydra." "You're not a head," Kim growled. "You're a cancer." Sacker's smile widened. "Then cut me out." He moved. Faster than Maya thought possible, he kicked the table over, lunged for a sidearm beneath it. She dove sideways as the pistol roared. Sparks exploded off the rock wall. Kim fired, Sacker spun, the round grazing his shoulder. He crashed into Kim and they went down in a tangle. Maya rolled, came up on one knee, sighted. Kim was between them. She couldn't shoot. Sacker slammed Kim's head into the floor. Kim went limp. Sacker snatched Kim's rifle, wheeled on Maya. She fired first. 3 shots sent her mass. Sacker staggered, dropped the rifle, collapsed to his knees. His breath rattled. He smiled up at her, teeth bloody. "You think this ends me," he whispered. "But I am only the first of many." Then he toppled forward, dead. 0130 hours, Exfil. They planted charges on the radios, hard drives, maps, anything useful. Kim stirred groggily, muttering curses. Maya hauled him to his feet. "Can you walk?" "I can shoot." "Good enough." They triggered the detonators on their way out. Fire bloomed behind them, sucking the air from the tunnels. Heat chased them through the darkness. They burst from the vent shaft as the command center collapsed in on itself, a dull roar echoing through the mountains. Outside, chaos. The guards were scrambling, shouting, pointing. Maya and Kim dove into the rocks, sliding down the slope in a spray of gravel. Bullets snapped overhead. Tracers carved the night. They reached the extraction point just as the MH-47 Chinook thundered in, rotors chopping the darkness. They sprinted for the ramp. Gunfire tore the ground around their boots. Kim staggered but kept going. They dove aboard as the bird lifted off, the world dropping away beneath them. Maya lay on the floor, chest heaving, staring at the cave complex dwindling below. Flames licked from the entrance. The mountain swallowed itself. It was over. 0500 hours, the aftermath. Dawn bled over the ridges as they limped into the outpost. Soldiers cheered weakly as they passed. Stone met them at the gate, eyes sharp but almost hopeful. "Report," she demanded. "Sacker is down," Maya said. "His command center's ash." Stone exhaled slowly. "Then maybe this turns the tide. Or maybe it just buys us time," Kim muttered. Stone glanced at Maya. "You saved lives tonight. Remember that." But as they walked away, Maya felt no victory. Only exhaustion. She wondered if Sacker had been right, if cutting off one head only made two more grow. Maybe the war didn't end. Maybe it just shifted. Later, the quiet. Maya sat alone on the same rooftop where it had all begun, coffee cooling in her hands. The smoke on the horizon was gone. The mountains were silent. Tomorrow she would go home. Her discharge papers had been processed while she was in the field. A flight back to Fort Bragg in 48 hours. A civilian life. Quiet. Normal. She wasn't sure she remembered what quiet felt like. Footsteps crunched behind her. Kim. He sank down beside her, wincing. "Stone says you're shipping out," he said. "Yeah. You gonna be okay?" Maya watched the sun crest the ridges, painting the world gold. "I don't know." Kim was silent a long time. Then, "If you don't come back, it was an honor." "Same," she said softly. They sat there together, two weary ghosts watching the day begin. Epilogue, the question. 3 days later, Maya boarded the transport plane. No fanfare, no ceremony. Just another soldier leaving another war behind. As the aircraft lifted off, the outpost shrank beneath her, swallowed by the endless gray sea of mountains. She closed her eyes. Somewhere deep in those mountains, in some hidden hollow the maps had missed, a sniper lay prone, glassing the world through a scope, patient as stone. Waiting. Watching. And as the engines droned her homeward, Maya wondered if she had truly survived this war, or if some part of her was still there, crouched on a ridge with her finger on the trigger, forever waiting for the next shot. The end.